Oh, control your mind, control your life. Think different theory, baby. That's what we do. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Think Different Theory. Guys, we made it. 2020. Done. It's the last day. And gosh, what a year. What a year it has been. You know, it's interesting. As I sat down, I had a couple different ideas of what to do for a end of the year podcast episode, if you will, right? Sitting down, and I thought I could do like a 2-hour long interview with somebody. We could do it over midnight. I actually have pages of notes that I've written down here. I sat down, I like broke down kind of the end of the year into a couple different, categories. There was politics, personal life, podcast lessons, business lessons, economy, things like that. And I wrote out, as you can see, if you're listening on, or if you're watching on Facebook here, I've got all these notes here about the different things that happened, the Australian wildfires and Kobe and COVID and Black Lives Matter and Trump and the lockdowns and the masks and the election, the vaccine and cryptocurrencies and Trump's crowds and, the massive Democratic losses, the Supreme Court. Like, there's so many different things that I wrote down that I was going to talk about. And as I really just sat down here today, it's interesting. I spent most of yesterday, and I'm spending today as well. This is by the way, I'm recording this live. We're broadcasting this live. I spent most of yesterday and today as well, just planning and taking a step back and just kind of reviewing the year, looking forward into the next year, moving forward, and really just being present and being super thankful and like reflecting back on what this year looked like. And as I sat down and as I started looking through all this, as I got ready to do this podcast episode, I couldn't help but think, what's interesting is there is so much strife. There's so much chaos. There's so many bad things that went wrong with 2020. Right. And we had some horrible things happen, the Australian wildfires, and we had, things like Kobe dying. We had COVID, people dying. And there's a lot that did go wrong or got crazy with everything. But, for me, 2020 was actually the very best year of my whole life. I've never had a better year in my whole life. I have a mindset coach. I got engaged. I had my first 6-figure launch in a week. I made over 6 figures in a single week for the first time ever in my whole life, right? I made close to $200,000 in 9 days. That was cool. We had my first viral video that got over 1 million views. We raised tens of thousands of dollars for Operation Underground Railroad. There were so many amazing things that came out of it. And as I kind of stepped back and I thought, how am I going to do this recap episode? How am I going to do the 2020 year in review? I thought, I could focus on the craziness of everything. And I could sit down and I could go, there's so many bad things about 2020. And I see so many people that are just like F 2020 and 2020 is the worst year of my life, sincerely never going back to 2020 and how it was just this horrible, horrible year. But I also see a lot of people, and that's the majority of people posting, but I also see a lot of people out there, a lot of people that are winners, a lot of people that are successful, a lot. And I'm not just talking about with money, but just in general, like in life, people that are focused, that had the best year of their life. And I was one of those people, and I'm very, very blessed to be in that position. I know there's a lot of other people there as well. But as I sat down, I went, rather than going through and talking about the crazy things and spending an hour or 2 hours talking about Trump crowds and Black Lives Matter and, the very controversial topics of the virus and masks and lockdowns and this, I want to take some time to reflect on what went right. And I wanted to take some time back to reflect on some of the biggest learning lessons that I have, because at the end of the day, like, the purpose of Think Different Theory, and I think it's really interesting, is like, I think a lot of people think that with Think Different Theory, I'm trying to build, the biggest show in the world, or I'm trying to be super, controversial about things. And like, we talk about topics that matter, but more importantly, like, this is my way of documentation. Like, I document with this show. And the reason that I am controversial sometimes, and the reason that I post and talk about, certain things, is because I'm actually interested in that stuff. Like, I actually focus on those things. I actually go and study the things that I talk about. And so I like for the podcast, I like for Think Different Theory to kind of be a reflection of where I'm currently at in my life, so that I can look back, so that you can look back, so that anybody can look back. Back in 2019, this is 2 years ago. We're coming up on literally 2 years ago when I started the show. I want you to be able to look back, and anybody can watch the progression in my life of how I grew and what I learned and how they can go and learn from it, whether that was mindset stuff or business stuff or political stuff or freedom or whatever, right? Like, and so I use the show as a documentation of my life so that I can document my growth, so that I can look back at my growth, so that you can look back at my growth, and so that we have this record of what actually went down. And so I wanted to use this to kind of look back at some of the wins, because I'll share a couple highlights from for me this year. I kind of already did, but hands down, the biggest highlight of the year for me was I got engaged, which is super, super cool. I get to literally marry the girl of my dreams, which is incredible. We're having a destination wedding next year. It's going to be super, super cool. That was a huge, massive highlight for me, right? And it took a lot of work to get to that point, and it took a lot of work to be in a position where, I'm not an easy person to deal with. Right, I live a pretty crazy lifestyle, and I'm very strict on a lot of things, and most normal people could not put up with how my mind works and whatnot. And so finding someone that matches, not only matches me, but also just like inspires me and pushes me, like that was really, really big. And that was by far the biggest highlight of my 2020. But also having a 1 million view video and being able to raise literally tens of thousands of dollars in trackable funds for Operation Underground Railroad. Operation Underground Railroad is one that it's a charity that I donate to every single month. I just an auto pay over into them, but bringing awareness to and raising, we got over 1 million videos on that, or 1 million views over on that video, and the awareness that we were able to bring to that, and that's really, really inspiring. And that was really, really encouraging to see the support, to understand that I'm not the only one frustrated with that. That was a huge win for me. And I'm going to share a little bit more about some of the mindset lessons that I learned. But there's one more kind of big, actually, hold on, let me pull this up here. There's one more kind of big, actually, there's two more big things in my personal life that I kind of want to share. The third one, so first one was engaged. Second one was that viral video. The third one was the launch. And I did a launch in June. It was the first week of June. And in that launch, we had over 2,000 people attend a 5-day challenge that I did. We had thousands and thousands of views and comments and engagement. We did homework. It was amazing. And I got to watch as people with the challenge, the launch that we did is I taught people how to launch stuff, right? It was a 5-day launch, how to launch your audience, how to launch your Facebook group. And I taught the frameworks and the process that we've done to do, $500,000 launches with cash flow tactics, and $150,000 launches with, Catherine Jones, and tens of thousands of dollars, the Yaks brothers, or, all these different, things. And I laid out this process, and it was cool. Yes, I got to make, 6 figures in a week, which was more money than I've ever made in a week before. But I got to watch as people were literally able to go out and take a message that was deep inside of them and get it out and actually launch something and make something real, so that they could go out and they can go impact and change the world. I got to go watch people that had been struggling in business, trying to find their voice, find their message, get something launched for the very first time, go out there and close their first deal or launch their first group or create a sustainable movement. And that's change. That's real change in the world, right? These people out there that are, there's women that we help that do health stuff. There's guys that we do that help people with their money and their finances. There's other people that we help that, help chiropractors and dentists. And there's other people that we help that help coaches and course creators. There's other people that we help people get through the depression. And we got to help my team and I, we got to sit there and we got to go help them build their movement and take their voice out to the world. And that is when you go and you get to help somebody achieve their dream, there's nothing more fulfilling than that. And we were able to do that in the midst of the virus. I was able to have the most, in June was the most profitable month of my whole life in a single month. And that was in the middle of a craziness and a pandemic. And what's interesting is through the process of becoming the person necessary to get engaged, becoming the person necessary to have that viral video, to launching and doing a 6-figure launch in a week, to going out there and leading a team and landing dream clients and getting to do another massive highlight of 2020 was my interview with Russell Brunson, Atlas Shrugged. Russell Brunson was a hero of mine, someone I've looked up to for years. To be able to go and sit down with that, I learned some really, really cool lessons about 2020 and about my life. And what I learned was that regardless of what is happening around us, regardless of what the chaos is going on in the world, regardless of all of the noise and the craziness, you have the ability to go out and create the life that you want to create and be unaffected by that and not let that dictate or determine that. But that only happens when you first focus on who it is that you need to become. At the beginning of this year, I hired a mindset coach. One of the things that I did, her name is Katie Richardson. She's one of the most amazing individuals I have ever met in my entire life. And she's $60,000 for the year. I pay her $5,000 a month. And every week we sit down for an hour and we talk on the phone and we go over mindset and we help get my mind in the right place. That's all we do. She's not a business coach. She's not a finance coach. She's a mindset coach. She's a life coach, right? She calls it a clarity and power coach. And investing $60,000 at the beginning of the year into a coach, I got ridiculed for it from a lot of people. Even some of my close friends were like, dude, that's kind of crazy. Like, why would you pay a coach $60,000? That investment changed the trajectory of my life and allowed me to do all the things that I did. But it wasn't because strictly that I had a coach. It was what the coach taught me. And what Katie taught me was that I contain everything that I need inside of me already. And that if I want to go out and accomplish something, it's all up in here. It's all up in my head. And that the reason that I am not where it is that I want to be has everything to do with me and has nothing to do with external things. And so when I started to shift my mindset and when I started to look inward for problems and when I was stuck somewhere, I became present. And when I started to realize that problems were made up in my mind and that I could use problems as tools and that I can totally shift like the reality that I am now to create a better reality, and that I have actual power to go and create what it is that I want to create. When I understood that, and when I understood the power that I had, suddenly I was able to stop living in fear. And if there's one thing that you guys know, I wear the shirt called Free Thinker. And one of the things that you guys know is I'm really big into being free. I'm really big into not living in fear. I've, been known to criticize the wearing of masks, not because of the mask, but because of, what it represents and how it's being done. But like everybody knows, that I love being free and I hate living in fear, and I beg people not to live in fear. Well, guess what? The whole world, the whole chaos of everything, all of 2020 was driven by fear, whether it was the media or the masks or the virus or the election, on both sides. It's not just Democrats, not just Republican, it's both. It's, everything was driven by fear. I was listening to an investor on Clubhouse the other day, Ty Lopez. I don't know if you guys know who Ty Lopez is. Comment down below and let me know if you know who Ty Lopez is. But I was listening to him and he said he picked up some deals. Big time investor. He does like $500 million deals, right? But he's like, he bought Pierre's One. And he was like, I think it was Pierre's One was the one that he was talking about with this. He's like, I was able to get that for a steal. For like, the company's over, I think it was like $1 billion in revenue or something like that. And he picked it up for like 40 or $70 million. I don't know what it was. But it was like a stupid low amount of money. And he was like, I was able to do that because I don't live in fear. And all the other investors out there had scared money. And it was just this reminder of, if you live in fear, you're going to make bad decisions. If you choose not to live in fear, you become untouchable and you become this force of nature to be reckoned with. And you can go out and accomplish your wildest dreams. But it all starts and ends up here. Everything that you do has to do with your mind. Everything that you do has to do with who you choose to be. And like, I wish I had the time to go down and like really dive down deeper into like mindset stuff. Do you guys mind if I share like just for a couple minutes, like I don't have time to like explain and go into super detail, but some of the biggest lessons that I learned in 2020 from a mindset perspective, I can just kind of tell you them. I can't really give you the full story or context because there's a lot of them, but if you don't mind, I want to share a couple of them here because like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to share a couple things here. Like one of the things that I learned with the mind is like, and this is going to sound crazy, but like I spent $60,000 on a mindset coach. I've read countless books about mindset and how the mind works and how psychology works and how energy works and like things like that. And like one of the things I learned is that time isn't real in a lot of what we do. And what I mean by that is we live in three realities. All right. And this is kind of probably one of my biggest takeaways. There's so many. Oh my gosh, I learned so much this year. But like we live in three realities. We live in the physical reality, we live in a mental reality, and we live in a spiritual reality. Okay, those are three realities. They are simultaneously existing, right? But only one of them is bound by time. Now, I know this sounds crazy. It's very, very deep and it's profound. And like this took me months to like wrap my head around and really study. And so I can't condense it down to just like a couple of minutes. But our physical reality deals in the construct of time. Like we go through time in our physical reality and we're bound by that. We can't change that. But our mental and our spiritual realities, they're not bound by time. They can go and instantaneously go into the past or the future and create. And when you start to understand that you first create things spiritually or in the energy realm, You then create things in the mental realm, and the physical representation is the last thing to happen. And when you realize that, all of a sudden, any problem that you run into, any goal that you want to achieve, all you've got to do is just step out of the physical realm for a second, go up into the mental and the spiritual realm, and go create it. Because there's no such thing as time. It's all instantaneous. And so if you can imagine it, if you can envision it, if you can go and really understand what it is that you're trying to go and build or do, or if you can kind of like look down, like imagine looking down at the world from like a third party perspective and like take off the construct of time and be like, man, if I could just instantaneously snap my fingers and I could just go through and just have the solution, like what would that look like? And you start to create the solution for things in your spiritual realm. And then in your mental realm, then time or your physical reality, if you commit to it first up there, will catch up. And it will become whatever it is that you've envisioned and decided to go and create. Now you have to go and do the work. You have to go and actually, do what's required. You have to become the person necessary. But like so many people are living in this construct of time. And they're living like, oh man, like I don't have enough money in my bank account, or I can't go do this, or like they're this close to the action. And if you're this close to the action, you can't see the big picture. And so like one of the things that I do often is I try to leave my body, leave the physical realm, and like look down at things from an objective third party view, understanding that like I have the power to go create. And like that was a massive, massive takeaway, right? But like, because I never was taught that, and because nobody ever told me that, hey, listen, there's literally 3 different realities. Things are created first spiritually, then mentally, then physically. If the reality is physical, hold on. If the reality is physical, it's already been made spiritually and mentally. So we got to go create it up here first, and then this will catch up. And I know that's super, super deep. Hopefully, did that make any sense to anybody? Hopefully so. Comment down below if hashtag makes sense or doesn't make sense down below. But I encourage you to study it. There's some really fascinating, information on that. So that was one of those things I learned. The second thing that I learned is that I personally have the power within inside me to create, and I have more effect over other people and things than I realize. And oftentimes in my life, as I went through, the year, I would find myself so worried about some external factor. I would find myself so worried about, oh man, what is that person going to think? Or how do I interact with that person? Or I can't because of that person, or I have no control over these situations. And what's crazy is like when you start to understand how energy works, and when you start to understand how the mind works, and you start to understand how human psychology works, particularly energy specifically, you start to realize that you have massive, massive amounts of influence in situations that you didn't realize that you had. There's a study, if you've ever studied quantum theory or quantum physics, right? Quantum theory, quantum physics, it's one of the most complex and not understood things of the universe. It kind of explains like a lot of things that we can't explain, but it's scientifically proven that our bodies, and this is what quantum physics says, is that that something can be both in a physical state and in an energy state at the exact same time. It's scientifically proven. It's called quantum physics. Go look it up. It's a crazy concept. But basically what quantum physics says is that our bodies are only 0.0009 or 0.001% physical and 99.9999% energy, which means that if we're in a situation, if we're interacting with people, we have 99.999% of our power in areas that we can't see. All right. And so does that person. And those are intertwined in ways that we don't understand. So how I react, how I show up, how I speak, who I choose to be in that situation actually has a massive amount of impact over the other person, even if I don't communicate with them, even if I don't can change the way that they think, simply by how I interact, simply how I show up, simply how I present myself, that can go through and that can have a massive impact. And I know, once again, I know this stuff is like deep. I know this stuff is not stuff that normal people talk about. But like going through and learning these lessons and understanding that my reality is not going to be created by somebody else. My reality is not going to be created by a politician in Washington, is not going to be controlled by a virus. It's not going to be controlled by, fear. It's not going to be controlled by lack of money. None of those things are going to affect my reality or dictate what I can and cannot do. The only person outside of God, of course, but the only person that can dictate what's going to go on in my life is me. And going into 2020 with that mentality, having that coach to help me through all those, and I had a lot of struggles. I had a lot of problems in 2020 where I felt like I hit a wall. And I had freak out moments and panic attacks and things where I felt like the world was collapsing in. But understanding that in every single one of those situations that I had the power to become a free thinker, to take control of my mind, to rewrite the story spiritually, rewrite the story mentally, and then have that manifest physically and act that way physically when I first knew where I was going up here, totally changed the trajectory of my life. And so as we move forward in 2020, and as I sit back and I look at the lessons that I learned, one of the biggest lessons that I learned was that who I choose to be will determine my future. Right? That was huge. Another one was the power of presence, the power of being present right now, and the power of slowing down. One of the best books I've ever read was, let me see if it's on my bookshelf. It might be in my bedroom. I think it's still in my bedroom. It's called Stillness. Oh no, it's right here. Hang on, let me grab this. Okay. One of my favorite books ever. I have it on audio and I have it on like Audible and I have it as a physical copy. Highly recommend everybody read this. I just recommended it to my team. My marketing assistant, I had him read it. It's a book called Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. Okay. And in this, he talks about how being still and how being present brings clarity and momentum, and how like basically everything that we're taught in the world, everything that we see on social media is faster, more, hustle, harder, more hours, more work, more things, more notifications, more apps, more, it's more, faster, go. It never shuts off. It's all the time. It's go. And like, that's what we're convinced, or that's what we're told is going to make us successful. That's what we're told is the thing that's going to get us to where we want to be. And it's like the exact opposite is true. This book really did change my life and brought through I actually applied what was in here. I didn't just read it. And this combined with my coach taught me the power and the importance of being still, of being present. And when everything is chaotic, when nothing makes sense, stop. I'll never forget. This is a crazy story, okay? I'll never forget this. I was working on a client webinar, okay? And I had been working on this client webinar for over a month. And I'm telling you what, I was stumped. I was working so stinking hard. I was so frustrated. I wasn't converting right. And we were trying everything we could possibly think of. I had spent hours and hours and hours in this webinar. I knew all the details, the secrets. Like I knew, and I'm good at marketing. Like I've studying Russell Brunson. I've got Russell Brunson videos playing and all this, like all these things, right? And I'd spent hundreds of hours on this. And I remember asking my coach, Katie, and I'm like, Katie, I can't figure it out. It's not converting. People aren't, what's going wrong with, why isn't this working? And her response was, Josh, you need to go be still and you need to go be present. And I didn't understand that. I was like, how does me stepping away from work, I have a deadline coming up, right? I've got, this webinar has to be done in 3 days. It has to be ready to go. I've got limited time. How is stopping going to be helpful? And I remember that afternoon I took out my Jeep. I just unplugged. I turned everything off, left the phone, drove around. And I spent 6 or 7 hours doing absolutely nothing but just being still and being present with myself. Went to sleep that night, woke up the next morning, sat down in front of the webinar, and within 2 or 3 hours, all of the problems that I couldn't seem to figure out, I had clarity on. And I was like, that got to go there. That's got to go there. We got to do this there. This got to be. And we did the webinar the next day. It was the highest converting webinar that we'd ever done. Almost double what our previous conversion rates were. How does that make any sense? It's the power of being still. Read this book. Stillness is the Key. One of my big takeaways from this year was one of, Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. Phenomenal book. A lot of what my coach Katie teaches is talked about in this book as well. So going back to kind of the year in review, I think one of the biggest things I think the single biggest thing that I learned in 2020 was that success, how do you know how to put this into words? It's like a two-part. You control, you have 100% control and power within inside of you to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. You do. Inside of you right now. But until you first understand where it is that you are going, what it is that you are building, who it is that you will need to become, you will forever live in chaos or like a spinning hamster wheel. You've gotta know where it is you're going first. And you do that through the process of creation. There isn't a right or a wrong answer. There's no book that's going to be like, this is exactly where you should be in a year or in 10 years or in 5 years or in 3 years. You get to decide that. There's no right or wrong. Like, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I don't think God's like, Josh, this is exactly where you should be in 3 years. I think God gives us a choice. And when you realize that anything is possible, literally anything is possible, and you get to go create a reality that you want to go live, and then simply by choosing to be that person, the person necessary, and becoming the person necessary and putting in the work and the effort to go create that, you can go create it, and nothing can stand in your way. And any circumstance, any seemingly obstacle or tribulation in the way is literally given to you by God or the universe or whatever you believe in to actually be a tool to get to you to where you want to go, regardless of whether or not you realize it at the time. And when I realized that I have the power to create anything, I've got to just choose, decide, and become the person necessary. And any obstacle along the way is actually the tools given to me to go and do that. My life changed. And there's so many other lessons along the way, but those skills, not webinars, not Facebook ads, not more money, not an investor, not a good idea, but the clarity of understanding and knowing where am I going, and then literally taking control of your power, literally going and grabbing the power within inside you and commanding it to happen. I don't even know how to explain it. And I know I'm not doing a good job, but these are the most powerful things that I can share with you as I look back on 2020, because that's the thing that changed my life. I've said this many times. If I had to define the year of 2019 with one word, it would have been searching. I lost my brother, I sold my business, and I traveled around the world to go find the meaning of life, if you will. I searched. I was very, very lost. If I had to describe 2020 in one word, it's growth. I grew more in 2020 than probably in all of my years combined. And it was because I focused not on the external, but on the internal. I focused on what do I need to fix inside of me. I stopped blaming other people or other circumstances as the reason that I was not able to be successful. And I started to realize that if I really, truly wanted something, if there was something that I was really, truly after, and I got very, very clear on that, I was able to achieve it by looking inward. And that anytime I was frustrated, anytime I wanted to blame someone else, if I first fixed me, if I showed up differently, if I became the person necessary in that situation, my entire life changed. And I was able to go out and get what I wanted. And that's what led me to a 6-figure launch or 6-figure week. That's what led me to a 1 million video view. That's what allowed me to become so ridiculously confident in who I am. One of the, I'll leave you with this. Will be the final life lesson takeaway, if you will, from Katie and from a mindset perspective here as we wrap up 2020. The very first question that Katie asked me as I sat down with her after I hired her. Keep in mind, when I hired Katie, I had a business. I didn't even really have a business. I hadn't worked in 2 months. I had sold the business. I had an audience. That was about it. I had no direction. I had no proven product. I had no idea where I wanted to be. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I needed to make $1 million. It was like that. It was chaos. I was all over the place. And I got on the phone with Katie. I was bawling my eyes out. I was like, Katie, I'm like, my life is a wreck. I need this webinar. I need that. What do I do? What's the answer, Katie? How do I go out and get rich? And I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, Josh, who are you? And I was like, what does that have to do with anything? How is that relevant in the slightest? And she's like, Josh, because everything you do starts with who you believe you are. So if you do not know who you are, if you don't know who you are at a very, very core, if you don't know what you believe about yourself, you're forever going to be stuck. You're never going to get to the next level. You've got to figure out who you are. And by going through the process of figuring out who I am and figuring out what I believe, that is how I became so confident. Why am I so controversial? Why am I able to go look some of the biggest influencers that are calling me out in the face and debate them. Why am I willing to be so controversial? Why am I willing to stand up for what I believe in? Because I know who I am and I know what I believe. I don't post stuff for just for engagement. I don't post my support of Trump or anything else because I want to be liked. It's because that's what I believe. It's who I am. And I have logical reasons to back that up. It's what I believe. It's who I am. And I'm incredibly confident in it. And I can back up what I believe with logic and with facts. And if I can't, then I want to know that so I can grow. And that's like that, knowing who I am, knowing what I believe at the very core. People can attack me. People can call me names. People can insult me, but I know who I am. I know what I believe. And when you have that level of confidence, when you are that certain in those things and open to grow, you have to think different. You have to go out there and you have to go through and you have to be like, okay, could I be wrong here? Where am I wrong here? What can I learn? I'm not right all the time. I know what I believe. And when you know what you believe, when you know who you are, your life fundamentally changes because you discover a confidence inside of you that you didn't know you had. Like, I'm a very incredible, confident person. In fact, my fiance has literally said, she's like, I am the most confident person she's ever met, right? As far as confident in who they are, right? I'm incredibly, incredibly confident, but I wasn't always that way. Why am I so confident? Why am I able to go out and take risks? Because I know who I am. I know what I believe. You have that power as well. Every single one of us does. That's what made my 2020 awesome. Knowing who I am, taking personal responsibility for my life, thinking for myself, understanding that my external circumstances do not determine my reality or what I get to do with my life. And when I fully embrace that, and when I fully leaned into it, and I'm like, this is where I'm going. This is who I am. That's where I'm going. Nothing and no one can stop me. And understanding that every obstacle, every setback is literally a tool given to me by God or the universe or the world, whatever you believe in. That obstacle is actually a tool. Another amazing book by Ryan Holiday is called Ego is the Enemy. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. Like studying those things and focusing on personal development and personal growth changed my life. Donald Trump didn't make me a better person this year. The politics didn't make me a better person this year. Ranting on Facebook didn't make me a better person this year. Knowing who I am, being radically honest with myself, facing my demons in the closet, dealing with my crap. I had some crap I had to clean up. I had some demons in the closet. I had some super messy stuff in my life that I had to deal with and take care of. And when I addressed those demons, when I faced those fears, when I became the person necessary to go out and have success, that's when I had success. And that's what made 2020 amazing. And every single person that I know that had an amazing 2020 did those things. They took responsibility for their life. They owned it. And it's like, I determined my future. And so as I look back on 2020, that would be my parting words to you or my advice to you. I don't even want to say, it's always weird because I feel like I am in a position of influence. I have a relatively large following, in the space. And it's always weird because I'm like, a lot of times I feel like I'm called to teach and like this is what you should do, or this is what, here's the way to go and get it. And guys, more so than me trying to tell you how to live, I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to be like, I'm so great. I'm just telling you what worked for me. You don't have to listen to me. And I never want you to think that I think I'm better than anyone. I'm a fallen sinner. I am not that smart. I'm not that great, but I'm committed. I'm absolutely committed to success. I'm committed to growth. I'm committed to bettering myself. And I hope that this helps you. I hope that this gives you clarity. I hope that this gives you confidence. And I hope that you can use these things. I'm not saying it because I figured these things out. I'm certainly not the first person to figure these out. These are tried and true principles. I'm not rediscovering the wheel or anything. I'm telling you what's working for me. Taking responsibility for your life, focusing on your mind, focusing on understanding how your mind works, focusing on understanding how to unlock your power, focusing on rewriting your stories. That's what changed 2020 for me. That's what allowed me to have the best year of my life. 2020 was the best year of my life. 2021 will be the best year of my life as well. Why? Because I'm in control. Not you. Not the government. Not Trump. Not Biden. Not the economy. Not my competitors. Not my customers. I'm in control. And when I come at it with that servant attitude of how do I serve? How do I become better? How do I become the best version of myself? How do I have more gratitude? That changes life. One of the other things I will add to this as well, another big, huge life lesson, was giving. I'm not going to go into the details of where I give or how I give or things like that. I think that's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. But I was watching a clip by Tony Robbins. This was earlier this year. And for whatever reason, it stuck with me. I don't know why. I'm sure I've heard the clip before. I'm sure I've heard other people say it. It was just like a little quick, like 30-second clip. He's like, just give. If you want your life to change, if you want to live an abundant life, just freaking give. Give more. And when you don't think you can give any more, give some more. Give. Be charitable. And that really stuck with me. And whether it's donating your time or donating your money or your services or whatever, like the more I give, the more I am generous, the better my life has become and the more I've been blessed. And once again, like this has nothing to do with, oh, Josh is charitable. That's not like, I don't give, like I'm not a Tony Robbins level giver. You know what I mean? Like it's just the principles of giving, the principles that when you are generous, when you give, it will come back to you in unexplainable ways that you cannot fathom or understand. And there's been so many times when I will just give and give and give, and then something that is completely unexplainable will happen to me and I will get it returned to me. And it's just, it's fascinating. And so that's probably another lesson of is giving. Just give. Be a generous person. Don't be greedy. Don't hoard. And your life will be made better for it. All right, guys. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I believe that my purpose on this earth is to leave it better than I found it, and to help wake people up and unlock that best version of themselves. Help people realize their potential, because I promise you, I believe in you more than you believe in you. And I haven't even met most of you. I believe that my purpose is to serve, is to bring glory and honor to God, and is to help people wake up. And I want to lead that by example. I want to become the best version of myself so that others can see that I'm leading by example and know that it's possible. The reason Think Different Theory exists is to help people think differently about their current reality, to help people understand that there's more to life than they could possibly realize, to help people understand that not politics, not a president, not a virus, not a law, not the economy, not some exterior circumstance. None of those things are in control of your life, but you are. If you're broke, it's your fault. You can change it. If you don't like your life, it's your fault. You can change it. If I didn't like my life, it's my fault. I can change it. And when I did a podcast episode, it was like, I think it was episode like 5 or 6 of the podcast. One of the first ones is called Everything Is Your Fault. And like, that's one of the most empowering and like just amazing statements that you could possibly hear. Because when you realize that everything is your fault, that means you have control over everything. You have control over everything in your life. And when you fully embrace that, when you fully step into that, like your life can change. And like, I see that. I've lived it and I've watched other people live it. And I want to help people unlock the power that's within inside of them. I want people to understand that they literally have a superpower sitting on their head. It's not like, that's not like a, oh man, like I wish I had a superpower. That's a great analogy. Like, no, like it's actually a superpower. It's actually a weapon for good or bad, more powerful than anything that you can even comprehend or fathom. That's how powerful what you have is sitting on top of your head or sitting on top of your shoulders. And I want people to realize that, to discover that, to unlock that, become the best version of themselves, go and make the world a better place. That's what Think Different Theory is about. That's what we're doing in the future. And I said this at the beginning of season 3, what we're using season 3 for, and we've been working a lot behind the scenes. We're going to have some updates coming out in 2021. We're developing curriculum. I'm going through and I'm sitting down with like some of the smartest people that I know, people like Russell Brunson, people like, and asking them questions about how to live successful lives, how to unlock the power within inside of people, how to master your finances, how to master your mindset, how to master your business. Like, we're creating these things so that people can go out there and live their best life. This isn't about me. It isn't about money. It isn't about success. It's about waking people up to the best version of themselves, becoming the best version of themselves, and realizing that you have the power. You do inside of you already. You just got to learn how to unlock it. But nobody teaches you this in school. Nobody's teaching you this in the education system. Nobody's going to teach. Very few people know it. but it's how we were created, and God gave us that power, and it's incredibly awesome. So thank you guys so much for your support. We had an amazing 2020. I'm so looking forward to 2021. As we wrap down this new year, my hope and my prayer is that you go out there and you really get clear on what you want in 2021, and that you go out there and you take it. You step into yourself fully. Know that I'm praying for you, that I appreciate you, every single one of the listeners here, whether it's on YouTube, on Facebook, on audio, on Instagram, wherever it is that you're listening. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your support. If you haven't yet, make sure you go subscribe over on iTunes, over on Spotify. Think Different Theory. Subscribe. Oh, if you want something for free, my little gift to you, go to thinkdifferenttheory.com/playbook. Thinkdifferenttheory.com/playbook. It's my free mind shift playbook. It's how to rewire your brain. Guys, I love you. Thank you so much. I hope you all had a very, very Merry Christmas. I hope you have a Happy New Year. That's all I got. Guys, what a year. What a year. Go out there and make and here's the deal. I'll leave you with this thought. No matter where you are at in life right now, you are not in the wrong place. Doesn't matter where you're at. I had this conversation actually just a couple days ago with my coach, Katie. And she's like, Josh, no, you can never feel like you're in the wrong place because you're exactly where you need to be right now. You are put here right now. Your decisions led you here right now, because if you are super successful right now, you made good decisions. If you're not super successful, if you made mistakes, guess what? You have an incredible story. You have life lessons that only you are going to have, that are unique to you, and experiences that are unique to you. And somehow, some way in your life moving forward, those will be experiences and life lessons that you're going to apply. And those lessons, those obstacles become the way. They become the tools that will get you to where you want to go. So no matter where you're at right now, no matter whether you're successful or not successful, no matter whether 2020 was the best year of your life or the worst year of your life or just another year, you're exactly where you need to be. Take control of your power. Go out and create the very best 2021 that you possibly can, because you have the power to go out and do that. It's a beautiful, beautiful, amazing thing. Guys, I love you all. As always, hustle, hustle. God bless. Do not be afraid to think different, because those of us that think different are going to be the ones that change the world. I love you all. Seriously, I love you all. Take it easy, fam. Peace. Oh, control your mind, control your life. Think Different Theory, baby. That's what we do.